is all catching hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. It don't matter if you Diddy or whoever you is. All lies will be exposed. In 30 years, I've done nothing but collect information, knowledge, and your secrets. I know so many things I shouldn't know.
Katt Williams has long been seen as an outsider in Hollywood, someone willing to say the things most people choose to avoid, and someone who consistently makes the public believe that he knows more than he should. Every time he speaks, there is a sense that a backstage door has just been cracked open, not wide enough to reveal everything, but just enough for imagination to rush in. From those suggestive remarks, a story begins to be woven: 7 black actors labeled as gay, rumored to have slept with everyone. There is no official statement, no confirmation from those involved, only scattered fragments that the internet assembles on its own through speculation and prejudice. And so a list takes shape in the collective mind, complete with supposed victims, those allegedly exposed, and judgments that arrive ahead of the truth. But in the end, who are those 7 people? And what are these accusations about their private lives actually based on concrete evidence, or merely the weight of a story, shocking enough to make us believe? Katt Williams, the most dangerous storyteller in Hollywood. Katt Williams has never been the kind of artist who stands still at the center of the spotlight waiting to be loved. He steps in from the edge of the stage, delivers lines that make the room laugh before it has time to feel uncomfortable, then leaves behind a lingering aftertaste that prompts the audience to wonder, was he just joking, or was he telling the truth? It is precisely this in-between space that has defined Katt Williams, one of the most controversial comedians, yet also one of the most culturally influential figures in American popular culture over the past 2 decades. Born in 1971 in Cincinnati, Ohio, Katt Williams did not have a smooth childhood. He left his family at a very young age, lived a nomadic life, read books in public libraries, and educated himself before stepping into the world of stand-up comedy. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, Katt began to rise through comedy clubs before gaining widespread recognition from mainstream audiences with his role as Money Mike in Friday After Next 2002. But what truly elevated him to iconic status were his stand-up specials, such as The Pimp Chronicles, Satchus 1 2006, American Hustle 2007, and It's Pimpin' Pimpin' 2008. These shows not only sold hundreds of thousands of DVDs, but also allowed him to sell out large theaters across the United States, an achievement not every black comedian of his era could claim. At the peak of his career, Katt Williams ranked among the highest-earning comedians. According to various entertainment industry estimates, there were periods when he could bring in tens of millions of dollars per year from touring television and film. Running parallel to that success, however, was a series of personal scandals, legal troubles, and outspoken remarks that earned him a reputation as uncontrollable. This very contrast, simultaneously successful and chaotic, shaped the image of an artist who did not belong to the system, someone who said what he thought without overly worrying about the consequences. It was also from this point that Katt Williams was frequently cast in the role of a whistleblower. Not because he released classified documents or explicitly named individuals, but because his style has always been confrontational toward the system itself. In his performances, Katt does not merely draw laughs from everyday life. He touches on power, money, race, gender, and the darker sides of the entertainment industry. These lines, constructed as social satire when stripped of context, can easily morph into what sound like serious accusations, far heavier than their original intent. This effect reached its peak in early 2024 when Katt Williams appeared in a more than 3-hour interview on Club Shay Shay. Within days, the episode drew tens of millions of views, becoming one of the most viral interviews of the year. Each of Katt's remarks was clipped into short segments and spread across TikTok, YouTube, and podcasts. What began as a long, complex conversation was compressed into shock-driven sound bites. And with that, the image of anything Katt says becomes a headline was firmly cemented. But this is also the critical point that requires careful examination. There is an important boundary between Katt Williams criticizing the culture of the entertainment industry and online communities, packaging his words into lists of private life accusations. In most cases, Katt speaks about power structures, about how the system operates, about the unspoken games within the industry, things many people have heard whispers of, but rarely dare to discuss openly. However, once those statements enter a clickbait-driven environment, they are quickly distorted from general critique into personal insinuation, from systemic discussion into rumors targeting specific individuals. It is precisely this distortion that leads directly to the story of the 7 gay black actors rumored to have had improper romantic histories. Not because they were involved in proven scandals, not because there were official records or formal accusations, but because they fit the profile of ideal targets, famous black actors, entangled in long-standing stereotypes about sexuality in Hollywood. In a content economy, where ambiguity is rewarded with views a familiar name, paired with an unverified rumor is always easier to sell than careful analysis. Katt Williams in this picture is both the source of inspiration and the pretext. He does not directly write out any list, but his blunt, unfiltered style creates the conditions for the crowd to believe that if anyone knows everything, it must be Katt. And from that belief, a narrative larger than the truth is born, a narrative that even its supposed central figure may no longer be able to control. So who will be the first name on this rumored blacklist? Number 1. Billy Porter. In the stream of rumors that has spread most intensely in recent years, Billy Porter is often mentioned earlier than most, not because of any specific scandal, but because he is simply too visible to be overlooked. Born in 1969 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Billy Porter graduated from Carnegie Mellon University and entered the world of Broadway theater at a very early stage. Long before television brought him to a global audience, Porter was already a respected figure in the theater community, having won a Tony Award for his role as Lola in the musical Kinky Boots in 2013. It was not until Pose the series that premiered in 2018 that Billy Porter truly became a pop culture icon. His role as Pray Tell not only earned him an Emmy Award in 2019, making him the first openly gay black man to win Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series, but also placed him at the center of a broader conversation about LGBTQ+ representation in Hollywood. Alongside his artistic achievements came a bold fashion image that challenged gender norms. Billy Porter appeared on the Oscars' red carpet in a shocking tuxedo gown and showed up at the Met Gala in designs that sparked intense debate across the fashion world. This uncompromising presence turned him into a symbol, but at the same time made him an ideal target for outdated stereotypes. In online spaces where everything is simplified for easy circulation, a complex artist like Billy Porter is quickly forced into a familiar label, a noisy private life-shocking imagery, and invisible rumors about a so-called chaotic lifestyle. What is striking is that most of the rumors surrounding Billy Porter do not stem from specific incidents or substantiated allegations, but from the way society perceives LGBTQ+ celebrities. For many years, social media has repeatedly reinforced a dangerous pattern. If someone is a gay artist, especially a gay black artist, then their private life must be complicated, their personal relationships must be messy, and the boundary of privacy must barely exist. When clips from Katt Williams' interviews went viral, that context immediately activated the collective imagination. Evidence was no longer necessary. All that was needed was a name familiar enough to fill the gap. The consequences of this way of seeing do not stop at a few online conversations. Gradually, it overshadows Billy Porter's professional abilities, pushing his achievements on stage and television beneath a layer of imagined scandal. An artist who once stood at the pinnacle of Broadway, who won an Emmy, who helped change the way Hollywood tells stories about the LGBTQ+ community, is reduced to an object of curious questions about his personal life. This is a form of double marginalization, being black in an industry that has long been harsh and being openly gay in a space still filled with prejudice. Billy Porter's story, therefore, is not merely about one individual being subjected to rumors. It is a textbook example of how exposé culture operates, selecting a symbol, stripping away context, and assigning them a narrative that is easier to consume than the truth. And when the public grows accustomed to viewing artists through that lens, the question that needs to be asked is not what Billy Porter has done, but rather why we so readily believe that a cultural icon must carry a scandalous private life in order to make sense within our own imagination. Number 2. Coleman Domingo. After Billy Porter, the stream of rumors does not stop with figures who are overtly iconic. It moves on to a different, more dangerous type of subject. Dangerous precisely because it is quieter. Coleman Domingo. He does not shock on red carpets, does not stir controversy through provocative statements, and does not cultivate a rebellious image. Yet it is this calm, proper, and consistent demeanor that becomes fertile ground for subtle assumptions. Coleman Domingo was born in 1969 in Philadelphia and came from a background in theater and playwriting before making his mark in film and television. He is one of the few black actors whose career spans all three arenas: Broadway, television, and cinema. Mainstream audiences know Domingo through Fear the Walking Dead, Euphoria, If Beale Street Could Talk, and more recently Rustin, a role that earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor, a historic milestone for an openly gay black actor. On stage, he has received Tony nominations. On television, he has won an Emmy. Domingo's career has been built on professional discipline, not scandal. Unlike many figures caught in cycles of rumor, Coleman Domingo has never hidden his personal life. He has openly shared his marriage to his longtime partner, Raoul Akhtanov, a stable relationship spanning more than 2 decades. In interviews, Domingo speaks about love, family, and work in a measured tone, leaving almost no gap for public exaggeration. Yet this very openness reveals another mechanism of rumor culture, when there is no scandal, speculation begins to be drawn from appearance, demeanor, and roles. Coleman Domingo often appears impeccably dressed with a deep voice and a sharp but understated gaze. On screen, he frequently portrays characters with psychological depth, intellectual figures, leaders, or individuals with complex inner lives. For a segment of audiences accustomed to viewing black men through simplified stereotypes, such refinement becomes hard to read. And so rumors begin to form not from actions, but from subjective impressions, too polished, too gentle, too different from traditional notions of black masculinity. As Katt Williams's remarks were clipped and circulated, Coleman Domingo was quickly pulled into vague online discussions. Not because he was accused of anything specific, but because he fit the image the internet needed to fill the blanks of a so-called list. A black, openly gay, successful actor appearing at every major award ceremony was enough for the collective imagination to take over. The impact of this type of rumor is not loud, but persistent. It shifts attention away from the professional achievements Domingo spent decades building. Instead of being seen as a rare actor who successfully bridges theatrical artistry and mainstream cinema, he is placed in a position where he is expected to represent the LGBTQ+ community, to represent a model image of black respectability, to represent a form of success that is not allowed to fail. That pressure does not come from direct accusations, but from constant scrutiny, where every gesture is interpreted as a statement. Coleman Domingo's story reveals another side of exposé culture. Even integrity is not immune to rumor. When the public becomes accustomed to searching for secrets, stability itself becomes suspicious. And in that world, the question is no longer what Coleman Domingo has done, but why someone who simply does his job well must carry such a heavy burden of representation and doubt. Number 3. Wilson Cruz. After Coleman Domingo, the swirl of rumors continues to move along a familiar trajectory, seeking out faces that have been present on screen for so long that they are no longer seen as ordinary. Wilson Cruz is one such case. Not a box office sensation, not a figure who dominates red carpets, but a name that American television audiences have been seeing for nearly 3 decades. And it is precisely that longevity in a culture that prefers to compress everything into simple labels that makes him especially vulnerable to vague speculation. Wilson Cruz was born in 1973 in Brooklyn, New York, carrying both Latin and Black identities, and entered the history of American television at a very early stage. In 1994, at just 21 years old, he took on the role of Ricky Vasquez in My So-Called Life, one of the first openly gay characters portrayed by an actor who was also openly gay in real life on primetime television. This role not only turned Cruz into a symbol of representation for the LGBTQ+ community, but also came at a significant personal cost. His family cut off contact, and his young career was placed on a precarious path. Yet Cruz did not turn himself into a victim of circumstance. He continued to build his career with rare perseverance. Throughout the 2000s and 2010s, Wilson Cruz appeared steadily in long-running television series, such as Noah's Ark, Grey's Anatomy, 13 Reasons Why, Star Trek Discovery, and many other projects. He did not simply play interchangeable supporting roles. He brought depth to his characters, from doctors and counselors to officers in the Star Trek universe. Now in his early 50s, Cruz has a career many younger actors dream of: stable, respected, and carrying a clear cultural imprint. Yet in online spaces, that long career is often reduced to a single characteristic: sexuality. The rumor mechanism surrounding Wilson Cruz operates through a kind of lumping everything together, where all gay artists are folded into the same imagined narrative about sexual life. No specific incident is required, no direct accusation is needed. The label gay alone is enough for a segment of the audience to automatically speculate about what happens behind the scenes. As Katt Williams's remarks were exaggerated and clipped out of context, Wilson Cruz became an easy name to add to that imaginary list, simply because he is so familiar and so open about his identity. The consequences of this way of speculating are more dangerous than they appear on the surface. When invasions of privacy are normalized as curiosity, personal boundaries are gradually eroded. Questions that audiences would never ask of heterosexual actors are suddenly deemed reasonable when directed at gay ones: how they live, how they relate, whether their private lives are complicated. Over time, Wilson Cruz's professional contributions, his pioneering role in Latin, Black, LGBTQ+ representation, his persistence within mainstream television are pushed aside to make room for stories no one takes responsibility for verifying. Wilson Cruz's story reveals a bitter paradox of representation. The longer one is present, the easier one is treated as public property. And in an environment where rumors are consumed as entertainment, that presence is easily turned into a pretext for invading privacy. The issue is not what Wilson Cruz has or has not done, but the extent to which the public has grown accustomed to viewing the personal lives of gay artists as something open to speculation, discussion, and consumption. When that becomes normal, it is the quiet, enduring contributions to art that are ultimately lost from the story. Number 4. Tituss Burgess. Not everyone enters the rumor vortex through scandal or shocking statements. Some are pulled in simply because they are too distinctive in a way that feels unlike anyone else. Tituss Burgess is such a case. He appears on screen with booming laughter, a powerful singing voice, and a comedic energy that seems almost explosive. And it is precisely that brilliance in an environment steeped in prejudice that becomes raw material for fabricated narratives to emerge. Born in 1979 in Athens, Georgia, Tituss Burgess received formal training in music and theater. Before television audiences came to know him, Burgess was already a Broadway performer, appearing in major productions such as The Little Mermaid Guys and Dolls and Jersey Boys, and earning critical praise for his vocal technique. The breakthrough that brought him into popular culture, however, came from his role as Titus Andromedon in Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, 2015-2019. The character was humorous, deliberately over the top, and at the same time, a sharp satire of how Hollywood treats gay black artists. The role was so successful that it nearly swallowed Tituss Burgess's real public image. On social media, the boundary between character and person blurred. Titus Andromedon, flamboyant, dramatic, excessive, gradually came to be seen as Burgess's real-life persona. From there, rumors began to form without any specific triggering event. His personal life was embroidered, relationships were speculated upon, and every gesture was read as evidence of a vaguely defined, chaotic lifestyle that no one could clearly outline. For years, whenever Tituss Burgess's name appeared in so-called expose videos or vague discussions about imaginary Hollywood lists, people often pointed to his tone, manner of speaking, and comedic style as supposed signals. Comedy plus voice plus prejudice formed a dangerous formula. Being sufficiently different from traditional standards of masculinity was enough to invite insinuation. The stories that circulated were not built on accusations or evidence, but on the audience's sense of familiarity. He looked like the type of person they thought of. What is worth noting is that Tituss Burgess himself has spoken out about being trapped in a mold. He has acknowledged that television fame brought visibility, but also forced him to constantly fight to be recognized as a serious stage artist, not merely a comic character. Yet in the digital content economy, that voice is far weaker than the reach of a clipped video or a sensational headline. The consequence of this kind of rumor is not an immediate career collapse, but a quiet, repetitive cycle of stigmatization. Each time Tituss Burgess is mentioned in an expose context, his image is narrowed a little further from a multifaceted artist to clickbait fodder for cheap narratives. And when LGBTQ+ identity is turned into a tool for provoking curiosity laughter, something that should be liberating is instead used to legitimize prejudice. Titus Burgess's story reveals an uncomfortable reality in the entertainment world. Being different requires not only talent to survive, but also endurance to withstand the stories others tell on your behalf. When comedy is misunderstood and prejudice is repeated often enough, the truth does not disappear. It is simply drowned out by noise. Number 5. Jussie Smollett. Not everyone drawn into the vortex of rumor begins in ambiguity. With Jussie Smollett, the story follows a different path. It starts from a real controversy, which then opens the door for all kinds of speculation to rush in. Once a figure is placed at the center of public uproar, the internet no longer distinguishes between verified events and embellished rumors. Everything blends into a single noisy mass that is difficult to disentangle. Born in 1982, Jussie Smollett entered the entertainment industry at a very young age, as a child actor in The Mighty Ducks in the early 1990s. It was not until Empire 2015 that he truly became a globally recognizable face. His role as Jamal Lyon, a gay black artist struggling to assert himself within a powerful family, not only brought Smollett fame, but also turned him into a symbol of representation for a generation of black LGBTQ+ viewers who had rarely seen themselves reflected on primetime television. Beyond acting, Smollett also released music, appeared on major stages, and was viewed as a figure who bridged artistic expression with social activism. It was precisely this status that made everything that followed far heavier. The 2019 incident that shook the public when Smollett reported being attacked and was later accused of staging the event transformed him from a symbol into the center of a nationwide controversy. While the legal developments were complex and debated over many years, what stands out is that the reaction within online spaces moved faster than any formal conclusions. Once an individual is labeled as controversial, the internet treats that label as permission to pile every imaginable suspicion onto their personal life. From that point on, rumors surrounding Jussie Smollett no longer revolved around the specific incident, but spilled over into his private life, sexuality, and relationships areas that had little to do with the original dispute. Social media operates on a blunt logic. If someone was wrong once, then any other rumor is also possibly true. For a gay black artist, that logic is particularly dangerous. Pre-existing stereotypes about complicated private lives, attention-seeking, or exploiting identity are pulled out and assembled into new narratives even in the absence of evidence or credible sources. The consequences of this process extend far beyond the individual. Rumors about Jussie Smollett's private life gradually became a weapon used to dismantle his public image, while simultaneously casting suspicion on those who resemble him, black LGBTQ+ artists as a whole. A singular case is turned into a stand-in for collective prejudice, as if the mistake of one person could be used to justify doubt toward an entire community. Number 6. Samira Wiley. Unlike the names that came before her, Samira Wiley did not enter the rumor vortex through controversy or shocking statements. She entered it through success itself. And in a familiar paradox of popular culture, the success of a black LGBTQ+ woman is often pulled in a different direction. Her private life is scrutinized, her image is sexualized, and her professional ability is pushed into the background. Samira Wiley was born in 1987 in Washington, D.C., and graduated from Juilliard, one of the most prestigious arts institutions in the United States. Her career broke out with the role of Pussy Washington in Orange is the New Black 2013-2016, a character beloved by audiences, not only for her memorable personality, but also for an emotional depth rarely seen on television at the time. Pussy's death in the series shocked the public, became a cultural symbol, and was frequently cited in discussions about violence, race, and the U.S. prison system. Wiley went on to further establish her acting range through The Handmaid's Tale, winning an Emmy Award in 2018 for her role as Moira, a major milestone in her career. Alongside her professional achievements, Samira Wiley has approached her personal life with calm openness. She married Lauren Morelli, a writer on Orange is the New Black, and built an image of a stable family life, neither hidden nor exploited as a tool for self-promotion. Yet in online spaces, that openness has often been read differently. To a segment of the audience, Wiley is not only an actress or a figure of representation, but an object of speculation about gender, sexuality, and personal relationships. The rumor mechanism surrounding Samira Wiley clearly reflects how black LGBTQ+ women are often sexualized in popular culture. Her role as Pussy youthful, emotionally rich, and tied to a love story within a prison setting has been blurred by many with Wiley's real-life image. From there, her private life is embroidered, exaggerated, and attached to narratives that lack any concrete events. As Katt Williams's remarks were clipped and circulated, these kinds of speculations became even easier to gather into imaginary lists, where Black LGBTQ+ artists are lumped together into a single story centered on sexuality. The impact of this kind of speculation is not as loud as scandal, but it quietly shapes how Wiley is perceived. Instead of being evaluated as an actress, capable of carrying a wide range of roles from comedy and tragedy to heavy drama, she is repeatedly confined to the image of a purely LGBTQ+ symbol. This directly affects opportunities to be cast in more multidimensional roles, where gender or sexuality is not the central axis of the character. For Black women, this distortion is even heavier. They carry both racial prejudice and a reductive gaze on gender and sexuality. Samira Wiley's story illustrates another form of harm. Within exposé culture, no accusations or scandals are required. Mere presence and success are enough to trigger scrutiny. When Black LGBTQ+ women are viewed through a sexualized lens, their artistry is sidelined and their career paths are invisibly narrowed. This is not a loud collapse, but a slow process of distortion, one in which the public image gradually drifts away from the real person and the true capability behind it. Number 7. Justice Smith. Justice Smith was drawn into the rumor vortex while his career was still on an upward trajectory. He did not come from the Broadway stage, nor did he carry decades of television experience, but stepped directly into mainstream cinema, where every personal image is easily packaged as a brand. And it is precisely in that space that youth becomes a double-edged sword. Born in 1995 in Los Angeles, Justice Smith became widely known through major projects such as Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, 2018 Detective Pikachu, 2019 Netflix's The Get Down and Dungeons & Dragons, Honor Among Thieves 2023. He represents a new generation of Black actors, young adaptable appearing in global blockbuster franchises, and directly connected to Gen Z audiences. In 2020, Justice Smith publicly shared his sexual orientation in a personal moment, quiet without spectacle or political declaration, simply an act of living truthfully. Yet in online spaces, that openness was quickly reinterpreted. For young Black LGBTQ+ artists, especially those working in commercial film, rumors do not need time to form. A familiar motif immediately emerges: young famous free, therefore associated with partying excess and a complicated private life. No specific incident is required, no clear accusation is needed. A few casual photos, a handful of appearances at entertainment events are enough for social media to write the rest of the story. As Katt Williams's remarks were amplified and clipped out of context, Justice Smith was pulled into vague discussions as a representative of the new generation. The rumors surrounding him are not overtly aggressive, but operate in subtler ways: suggestion, insinuation, and association. Commentary videos, podcasts, and social media posts place him within the same frame as other names, as if youth and sexual orientation automatically imply an over-the-top lifestyle. The impact of this kind of rumor is particularly visible among younger audiences. Instead of encountering Justice Smith through his work, many come to know him through pre-packaged online drama. The actor's professional identity is diluted into peripheral entertainment imagery, blurring the line between roles and the real person. For an artist building a long-term career within major studio systems, that pressure is significant. Every ordinary action risks being read as a message, and every personal choice can influence how the entertainment industry's brand machinery perceives him. When the list does not exist but the algorithm does, after all the names, the stories, and the spirals of rumor, one thing becomes clear: Katt Williams may be the spark that ignites the internet, but the real fire does not lie with any single individual. It lies in how we consume information. In clickbait, in algorithms, in the desire to see someone exposed even when there is nothing to expose. What surrounds the so-called 7 people on the list reveals a familiar mechanism of modern exposé culture. No documents are needed, no verification is required. All it takes is a headline. Vague enough, shocking enough, seductive enough to make viewers feel as though they are accessing a hidden secret. The rest is completed by the collective imagination. Black LGBTQ+ actors become ideal targets, not because they are linked to proven scandals, but because they sit at the intersection of multiple prejudices, fame, minority status, and a high susceptibility to misinterpretation. What is troubling is not only the damage to individual reputations, but the way an entire community is reduced to stereotypes. When rumors are repeated often enough, they begin to be absorbed as if there must be something true about them. At that point, truth is no longer central. What is prioritized instead are views, shares, and the ability to keep users engaged for a few seconds longer. Therefore, before sharing a video or believing a story labeled as exposed, perhaps it is time for each of us to ask ourselves 3 simple questions. Where does this information come from? Is it based on concrete evidence or merely on cleverly packaged hearsay? And most importantly, whom does this information serve the public's need for understanding or an algorithmic machine constantly hungry for shocking content? Respecting the truth does not mean remaining silent in the face of every controversy. It means choosing not to participate in narratives constructed solely to burn down human images. And that choice ultimately lies with the viewer.
All data, analysis, and commentary in this video are presented based on information available at the time of production. The content is subject to change over time and should not be considered a definitive forecast. There is still so much more to explore. Stories of resilience, legacy, and truth. Feel free to dive into some of our top recommended videos now appearing on your screen.